Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast. I'm Joshua.
I'm Kim. Let's dive in. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We're going to have a really quick episode today. Is what I'm going to say.
So buckle up. We're just going to start zooming.
Let's do it.
Okay. So this topic was brought to us by one of our friends of the show, Sean, was on once, but he made a Facebook post that said, "We spend way too much energy trying to be someone else's version of us." And I was telling Kim, I was like, I think that could be a really good topic, because even this morning we were just having a conversation about our purpose and destiny, and how do we outwork that when sometimes we don't see that in ourselves, or we see the flaws in ourselves, or sometimes other people are like, "Oh, I see this in you," and you're like, "I don't." So I just wanted to pose that topic, and let's have a short conversation about it. And so Kim, what was the first thing that popped up in you when I said that?
Well, I tend to be pretty passionate about identity. And I'm someone, if you haven't heard me talk about this before, I feel like I spent like a good 30 years of my life trying to make my own identity of who I am. And then finally I started actually asking the creator, like, who he created me to be. And then the more I learned about that and stepped into that, the easier life was. You know what I mean? Because I wasn't trying to fit into some mold that either I or someone else decided that I needed to be in. I think this statement is wildly freeing. I'll say that. I also tend to think that the world doesn't need you to be the version of you that everyone else wants to see. The world needs you to be the version of you that you're created to be. Because like there is a purpose in that. And when you start trying to be someone else or someone else's version of you, it's just kind of watered down. And I feel like it's not as powerful as it can be. What do you think about that?
I think that can be one of the issues with having a lot of voices around you. Even sometimes like coaching, or like I think of like business videos I've watched or things. There's a real fine line from somebody giving you tools that you can use in your life, and or there's a fine line between that and making you do things the way they do, making you like trying to tell you you can have success the way they found success. And maybe like there's can be limited success there, but I think there's a fine line between that. Like, you can learn from other people, you should learn from other people, but they should be equipping you with knowledge and with tools that then you can go use to express the way you would do that. And I think of like YouTubers and content creators in general, and how many times I see like for example, a clip of Joe Rogan talking about a subject, and then I'll be scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or something, and 5 other clips of podcast people talking about the exact same thing. And it's like regurgitated podcasting. And maybe to some degree that's what I did today by picking someone else's Facebook post to talk about. Just thinking about that. But it's, you see that a lot in content creation, where people mirror what other people do, how other people have found success. And sometimes you can find success there, but what really makes a content creator long-term successful is by finding what makes them unique in the content space. What are they doing that's slightly different, even if it's similar, but like, what's your spin on it? Like, how do you uniquely express that? And I think when we talk about identity, especially coming from Father and working in the kingdom, there's a lot of copying that goes along with like spiritual mentors or people who you see as like leaders of the faith. That happens a lot. I've seen that a lot. I've done that myself, like trying to be like someone else. And really, uh, what helps you walk into maturity is learning, okay, this is a tool I can use. Now, how do I uniquely express that through how I was created um, to be? And I think that can sometimes be really nuanced.
I completely agree. I have a couple things to say. First of all, when you were talking about like some leadership books and things, funny you said that because just this morning I was listening to a book and it was something about making crap happen. I was just trying not to mark this episode explicit. Okay. Making crap happen. And I was put off a couple times with what it was saying because it was like there are two things that you can have. You can do this. You can give up, roll over, and die, or you can use this method that we've developed. And I was thinking, those are not the only options. And they're presenting it as though it is. And it is saying, here's this mold, you need to fit into it. Otherwise, just you can die, which is absolutely absurd. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it is on both sides, just like you were talking about. Like there are those who say you have to fit in this mold, otherwise you'll never be successful or you'll never reach your full potential. And then there are also those times when we say, oh, I need to be like this person, otherwise I will not be successful in the way that they're successful. Right. And so I think so many times there are these molds that are presented and we either choose to put ourselves into it or someone else puts us into it. And you always wind up feeling like it doesn't quite fit. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Imposter syndrome, the whole like, I'm walking out this role, but I don't actually fit into it. I think that's where it really comes from when you start stepping into things that you weren't actually made to do, or a personality that you weren't actually supposed to outwork. Some of those things, you can make them work. They will function. They may bring success, but at the end of the day, you don't actually feel like it's you doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to be able to feel like it's us doing it. And on the flip side, I also want to say this. I could hear an argument in my head with this, like, but you know what? We all need to be Jesus to the world. And I would say, no, we don't. I'm just waiting for the cancel button to be clicked. Like, just go ahead and click it. It's fine. We don't need to be Jesus to the world. We are a part of the Christ, right? The body of Christ. We carry that within us. However, we don't have to be the person Jesus to outwork that. And especially when we carry that very unique part of the Christ that the entire body needs. You know what I
I think
mean?
that's part of where it gets like nuanced in my mind and tricky, is because it's like, yeah, should we be Christ-like? Yeah, you should be the expression you are of Christ.
Right.
And so it's like, how, but yet you don't need to like live 2000 years ago and die for the sins of humanity. Like, you don't have to outwork it exactly the way the man Jesus did. And
Right.
I think that's sometimes where it gets tricky, even in business and investing. And it's like learning from people who I respect, who've been really successful, um, doesn't mean that the way they did it is the way I should. Maybe they can equip me with a bunch of tools and resources and be an example of what is possible. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's really like, sometimes there is a drive in humanity to belong, and I think that it's God given and it's there for a reason. But sometimes I think that we leaning into that, we step into um, communities or um, social groups because they accepted us, even though maybe that isn't exactly where we fit at the time or what was needed at the time. but it was an open door. It was a warm seat that was available.
That's so interesting. I feel like I just read something the other day that just because a door is open doesn't mean that you need to walk through it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was having a conversation. So we just a couple weeks ago passed the Jewish New Year. It's now the year 5784 in the Jewish civil calendar. And I was listening to someone talk about gematria of that, and there are aspects of it that are have to do with doors and open doors. And I was talking to my wife about this, and she said the way she views abundance is by having 3 or more choices in everything you do, but also that cannot be abundance if you don't have wisdom to know what door to choose. That can just be like chaotic and overwhelming if you have all the choices in the world, but don't know what to do with them. Don't know which door to close, which door to open, which door to step through. Like all of that is wisdom. All of that requires being in tune with wisdom. And I think that that's an important thing when we're talking about this, is like ask for the spirit of wisdom to come speak to you, because I mean, without that, without guidance, without truth, like you can get stuck with a whole lot of doors that don't need to be open.
Yeah, I think that's really good. One last thing that I do want to say about this, it's on a kind of a flip side of this. Gosh, what was the quote that Sean put?
We spend way too much energy trying to be someone else's version of us.
Okay, so the flip side of that is maybe it's time to evaluate what your expectations are of others and stop putting your expectations on others to serve you. Because I think just as much as we don't want to be put in a mold and we need to be able to walk out who we were made to be, we also need to allow space for others to do the same without us demanding they be something that we want or desire from them. Yeah. Right? I'm going to get a bit extreme, but I would even say like sometimes there's like spiritual vampires. Like, let's just be honest, people who are looking at other people to leech off of them. Mm-hmm. They have this, I want it, I'm going to take it. Right? So I think there needs to be this balance of allowing yourself to step outside of the mold that maybe the world has put on you, maybe you have put on you, and actually step into who you're supposed to be, but also like allowing others the same freedom in that same space and giving grace to one another as we stumble through it, because there's no like real easy, graceful, perfect way to do it without making mistakes. There is beauty in that. But if we could just kind of allow others the ability to do the same without making it about us or making it about success or failure, but really like it's a journey.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand you're on a journey and everyone else is also on a journey. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And just as much as like I can look back over my last year and be like, wow, look how much my life has changed and look how much I've grown. If I don't afford someone else that same grace in their today, like, that's, maybe I see potential in them and I want better for them. But if that's not, I think if that isn't outworked, if that's not expressed in the right way, then it does just become like holding them in a system that they shouldn't be in.
Right. Yeah. Good stuff. Thanks, Sean, for providing that topic today.
It was great. All right. We'll see you guys soon.
All right.
Thank you for sticking around. Listen for new episodes every Monday and Thursday. Find us on all social media platforms by searching for Market Mystics. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. visit upperroomcd.com, where you can find more information about the hosts, projects, and guests. Go deeper by booking a coaching appointment focused on redefining identity and wealth in your life. See you next time.